Well, hello everybody, and welcome back. We are discussing Numbers chapter 29 today in 5 minutes, and as always, for the 9 millionth time, you can download the free PDF on the website at tobelikechrist.com, and there's a link in the description. Numbers chapter 29 is a lot like Numbers chapter 28, which we talked about yesterday. A lot of very detailed text about sacrifices that were supposed to be offered by the Israelites. Okay, but first let's talk about our characters. We've got Moses. He's the leader of the Israelites. God speaks to him and he communicates God's commands to the people. We have Eliezer. I don't think he's specifically mentioned in the chapter, but he's the high priest who's in charge of all the sacrifices at the temple. And then we have the priests who serve under Eliezer, and they were the specially appointed people to care for the things of the tabernacle, to offer the sacrifices, and they were the only ones allowed to do it. In terms of our timeline, these events not really events, but these instructions the Israelites were probably given right before the Israelites entered the Canaan land, so it would be approximately 1450 BC. And then in terms of our map, as long as anything hasn't changed that we weren't told about, the Israelites are pretty much camped at the same location that they were in chapters like 22 through 27. That would be at the border of the Amorites and the Moabites at a place called Shittim, which was near Pisgah, which you'll see on the map. All right, and then in terms of our outline, I've tried to condense this down a little bit more than last chapter. If you really want the nitty-gritty details of like how many animals needed to be offered and what percentage of an ephah of fine flour mixed with oil needed to be offered with each animal, I'd encourage you to read the chapter. Hopefully you've already done that before you're doing this outline, but I'll save the details for the actual text. This chapter breaks down pretty easily into 3 sections. The first section is verses 1 through 6, offerings for the Day of Trumpets. So on the first day of the 7th month, Israel was to have a holy day of rest that was marked by the blowing of trumpets, and that's why this day is sometimes called the Feast of Trumpets. On this day, the priests were to offer a special kind of sacrifice. They were to offer the regular daily sacrifices, the monthly new moon sacrifices that we talked about last chapter that were supposed to be offered on the first of every month, and then in addition to those, an additional bull, a ram, 7 lambs, grain offerings for each animal, and a male goat as a sin offering. Verses 7 through 11 talk about offerings for the Day of Atonement. So the 10th day of the 7th month, Israel was to observe another special day of rest, and they were to afflict themselves, which that's traditionally been interpreted as they were supposed to fast that day. They were to offer a bull, a ram, 7 lambs, grain offerings, and a male goat as a sin offering. This last feast that we're going to talk about takes up the majority of the chapter and very detailed as to what was supposed to be offered on this day. You'll notice it's also in the 7th month on the 15th day. So the 7th month was a busy time for the priests and for the Israelites with all these celebrations and sacrifices. This section is talking about offerings for the Feast of Booths. So the Feast of Booths began on the 15th day of the 7th month, and it lasted for 7 days. The first day was supposed to be a holy convocation. Just like all the other holy convocations, no ordinary work was supposed to be done in the camp of Israel. The priests were told to offer a sacrifice of bulls, rams, lambs, goats, grain offerings, and drink offerings every day of those 7 days, with the number of animals varying on each day, specifically the number of bulls that were supposed to be offered. It began at like 13 on the first day and it went down to 7 on the last day. But again, all that information is in the text. The day after the feast, on the 8th day, the priests were to offer an additional sacrifice, and that day was also considered a day of holy convocation. And so that is Numbers chapter 29. Don't worry, the next chapter we're not going to talk about any more offerings, at least for the time being. Now for our application, as I did yesterday, I'm not going to go through all of this information, but I just wanted to give you a list of the dates and the names of the feasts that occurred on those dates, so you can begin to get your head wrapped around when these feasts and all this stuff fell on the Jewish calendar. Because even me, with creating these outlines and having to work through all that in my head, I still get all these mixed up. So you'll see down there, the first thing that's listed is going to be the date of the year, and then the name of the feast is listed after that. So maybe that'll be valuable for reference now or sometime in the future.